Hey, what's up guys? My name is Gracie, aka Gray Reads Books. I have rebranded and changed my channel name. Quick explanation. I was Marvelous Books before if you're new. I will always love Marvel and it'll always have a place in my heart, but I'm not into it as much as I used to be, so I felt that the name didn't fit me anymore. So it was Gray Reads Books. Gray sounds like Gracie, like the beginning, and it's also one of my favorite colors, and yeah, I think it's cute. New channel art. I'll link the creator's Twitter in the description below. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. So yeah, today we're doing my May and June wrap up. If you don't remember or if you're new here, I do like 2 months at a time for wrap ups because, especially this year, because I haven't been reading as much as I usually do. So a wrap up for 1 month would be too short. So anyways, let's get right to it. In May, the first book I read was All the Rage by Courtney Summers. I wasn't the biggest fan of. I gave 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this book, but there's something about it that didn't quite click with me. I think the writing is really good. I love Courtney Summers' writing. I think that the premise was really, it could have been good, but it just wasn't executed as well as I would have liked. This is a story not only about a girl who was previously sexually assaulted in high school, who no one believes and everyone hates her now for accusing this popular boy of doing this to her, but also her ex-best friend goes missing, and it's definitely a story about trauma, and I did enjoy it, but I don't know, I feel like the way it was done was so much like several other books I've already read. And then I read The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket. I literally am blanking today. Then I read The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket. This is the second book in the series of unfortunate events. I love the movie with Jim Carrey in it, and I've loved it since I was really young. And I read these when I was a 5th grader, all of them, so I've been trying to get through more of them. This was always my least favorite part of the movie. And I remember disliking the book as a 5th grader, and it was again not my favorite. I gave it 3.25. There's something about this one that just doesn't intrigue me. I don't know if it's like the snakes or just, I don't know, but I remember enjoying the latter books, the ones that come after this one, a lot more. So I definitely will be continuing in this series. I don't know if you can see it, but I have them all up here. And I kind of am thinking about reading the 3rd one this next month in July, so we'll see. Then for the end of school, online school, we read Mouse 1, A Survivor's Tale by Art Spiegelman. This is a graphic novel about the about World War II and the Holocaust. It's Art Spiegelman's father's story told in interviews and flashbacks from his father, and you also get a present view of the relationship of Art with his father. And I think that it was done really well in terms of storytelling and giving that present point of view and showing how the things that Art's father went through really shaped him as a father and as a person in general. I did give it 4 stars. I have definitely read better things and enjoyed graphic novels a lot more, but I think the message was really important, and obviously this is a true story, so I feel weird rating true stories, but I think it was really good. I don't know if I would ever read the next ones in the series, but we'll see what happens. Next I read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, which was my favorite book of May. I gave it 4.5 stars. I previously read, I believe in April, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, which is my favorite book of the year. My one and only 5-star of the year so far. This book tells the story of a family whose sister has recently passed, and they're not really sure exactly how it happened. Like, they know the cause of death, but they're not sure if it was suicide or accident, and you get pieces of their life before it happened and after it happened woven throughout, and eventually the daughter who died, her story and what happened to her and how what happened to her came to be. I thought this was a really, really good book. I think Celeste Ng is extremely talented. I don't know if she has anything other than the 2 books I've read from her, but I definitely will read like any of her works in the future. She has an extreme talent for writing, and I don't know, I cried with both of her books really hard. The only thing about this one, which I gave a 4.5, is I thought the timing was odd, going back and forth between not only the point of views of the different siblings and parents, but also like after she died and before she died, and not just like one single timeline before she died, but like several different timelines, I guess. And I just think it could have been more clear on like when it was talking about, because it kind of switched abruptly sometimes, but otherwise I thought it was amazing. I highly recommend these books if you're trying to get into more like hard-hitting contemporary, especially like, I don't know, they're like kind of literary fiction, almost like adult fiction, but also they center on like, they center on family, so it's hard to say like if you would classify them as young adult or new adult or adult, because you see both like the teenagers and even like there's a elementary school age character, I believe. One of the sisters is pretty young, but I really highly recommend this book, as well as Little Fires Everywhere. Finally in May, I read I Hope You're Listening by Tom Ryan, which I received as an ARC from Edelweiss. I also gave this book 4.5 stars. It was a really, really good book. It is pitched as like similar to Sadie by Courtney Summers, which I loved. It's right here. It is about a girl who, when she was young, experienced an attempted kidnapping where her friend was actually kidnapped, but she was left alone. But she witnessed all of it, and it's really been difficult for her to like heal and move on from her experience, and her friend was never found until a new young girl goes missing in the same house that she used to live in, and it seems very targeted and kind of like a copycat type thing. So she uses her podcast, her very well-known podcast, in which she disguises her voices to not be identified, in which she and like armchair detectives or web sleuths try to help missing people be found. So I loved the podcast element. I think that the podcast element in Sadie was really good, and when it was compared to Sadie and then I had a podcast, I was like, oh god, it's gonna be the same thing. It was definitely not. It was definitely used in a different way than it was in Sadie, and I really appreciate that. I also thought that the book was extremely like accurate in its depiction of teens, because I personally am a teen, and sometimes I feel that adult authors don't quite get it right. Obviously everyone has different experiences, but just like the way we talk and stuff doesn't quite fit sometimes, but it really definitely did. It's also queer, forgot to mention. The only thing that I wasn't like super impressed with, which is why it wasn't like a 5-star, was the writing style was very basic in my opinion, and I feel like it could have done more. And now it's time to move on to the books I read in June, which I unfortunately only read 2 books in June. I just was really lazy in terms of reading. So if you don't know about the game The Last of Us, I played the first one, the second one just came out, and I've been really trying to finish that game. So I've been slacking on reading, as well as I got a new job. So it has been really hard for me to read, so I only read 2 books, even though my goal was to read Black and Indigenous novels, that especially in June, and just more in general, because I feel like although I don't try not to be diverse in my reading, it is not where it should be, so I'm going to continue to work on that. I did read 2 books and they were both really good, in my opinion. So the first book I read was The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich, I don't know. This book is set in North Dakota, which is where I live, so it's like the only book I've ever read set in North Dakota. And it was really amazing, extremely heartbreaking, definitely extreme trigger warnings if you are thinking about reading this book. So this book follows a Native American family on a reservation. They are Ojibwe. I think that's how you say it. I'm really sorry if that's not correct. Please feel free to let me know in the comments. I did look it up and that is how I've heard it said, but I don't trust the internet sometimes. So this is in the point of view of 13-year-old Joe, and this book starts off when Joe's mother is found after she's violently raped, and it is extremely heartbreaking. It is a story of trying to find justice while at the same time Joe seeking revenge and trying to, you know, fix his mother in a way who has endured an extreme trauma and is a completely different woman to the person she was before. And just, it's very, very upsetting, as it should be. It's uncomfortable. And unfortunately, Indigenous peoples are in these types of crimes happen to them all the time, and Indigenous children and teenagers and women especially are taken very often, and they are the least likely to be found statistically, from what I know. The only thing that I don't know about this book is I was trying to look up the author, Louise Erdrich, and I was having a hard time finding much. She is white passing, and I believe she is white, but although it says that she's like, I don't know the exact term, like an elected member of a tribe, I don't really understand exactly. Feel free to like educate me, because I don't really understand. So that is my only like question about this book, is whether the representation in it is accurate. If you've read this book and you are Native American or Ojibwe, and you would like to tell me what you thought about it, I would love to hear it. But I did give it a 4.5 star because I thought personally it was really amazing. But I would love to hear about the representation if you have any thoughts. So the last book I read in June was If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. This is the very short story about a Jewish girl named Ellie and a black boy named Jeremiah at the same new school for them, and their love story basically. It is very amazing and beautiful and definitely like cry worthy, but also very upsetting. I did give it a 4 star because I was expecting more from the writing, and it almost was a type of writing that bored me a little bit. I did think it was interesting the use of like first person when it was Ellie's chapters, and third person when it was Jeremiah's chapters, which is definitely foreshadowing, as there is a lot of in this book. But it was really beautiful and a difficult story. I guess maybe I had too high expectations for it, and just how much it's praised, and Jacqueline Woodson's writing and stuff is praised, but I wasn't the biggest fan of her writing. So that is everything I read in May and June. Like I said, I am working to read more diversely. throughout my life. In June, I was just dedicating it to Black and Indigenous novels, but unfortunately I didn't end up reading that much. I had so many plans and I just really slacked off. We should always read diversely and encounter stories that aren't similar to our own, although it may be uncomfortable. Both of those stories for me were something I have not experienced personally, and that is the point in reading diverse books, is to be uncomfortable possibly and realize that your life is not the only type of life that's out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day wherever you are. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, because it means so much to me and most of my viewers are not subscribed, and I would really like to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. So thank you.